spirituality or through awakening, through enlightenment, through moksha, through theosis, hard to say, through nirvana, through kensho, satori, all those words. How is that possible? And why would you have that as an explicit goal when you're enlightened, right? If you're enlightened, you shouldn't need to worry or shouldn't think about getting younger. You know, the anti-aging community, the anti-aging sphere, blogosphere, those people interested in anti-aging, which I'm one of, has made a lot of headway. It's become very popular. Almost every product, facial or face cream and things like that, promises some form of anti-aging properties, which is, mostly just not true. And what we used to call just healthy is now called anti-aging for in many ways. But there are, of course, science and practices and stuff like that that do rejuvenate different parts of our bodies, in different ways, for sure. And we can measure that in different ways. And what I was thinking about regarding spirituality is that, well, there are many ways to think about it. One is the quote from our beloved Jesus. He says that it's not until we become like little children, where we. It is not until we become like little children, small children, that we enter the kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven, something like that. Yeah, I got that quote perfectly right. But the essence of it is, becoming children. They are younger than an adult. So that's one way of thinking about it, in that we become young at heart, in a way. We become freer, just like children are. So the most elated state, the deepest, best way of enlightenment in the Hindu tradition, if we can say that, is called sahaja samadhi. Samadhi is a type of state, and sahaja means spontaneous or natural. So the natural state is the spontaneous state, is the awakened state, and it's concomitant. What's that word? It's heavily related to flow, being in flow, being spontaneous, being in flow. And who are like that? Yeah, small children are much more in flow than adults are. But people who go through awakenings, that's what they say. They say that they become more free. They become more in love with the world. They become more like, they don't think as much, just like little children. They just act, they just do. And that is in many ways the goal for a lot of the ancient spiritual traditions, to be free like a child, which is then hence, related to my point of aging backwards in a way. Like, what's that movie? Brad Pitt, I don't remember. Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons. It's not really that we age backwards, but we become freer like we were when we were younger. Because when we are really young, we are really free. We don't care too much. We haven't even internalized other people's, theory of mind haven't evolved yet, or mentalization isn't evolved yet in our brains, in our minds. So we don't even understand that other people can have a different view of us or the things that happen in the world than ourselves. Then we do develop that, and it's a basis for all, real morality, of course. So it's a good thing, but it's also makes us, like teenagers usually are, at least. The one thing they worry about all the time is what other people think or about them, basically. That's their whole orientation, and being in the in-group and, yeah, all that anxiety that most people have growing up and becoming adults. But usually, when we are 13, 14, 15, 16, those years are pretty tough for many people. Because of that reason, we develop that type of psychology, mentalization, theory of mind, in understanding that other people have a different view of us than ourselves, and we internalize that view and try to adapt to it. And yeah, we want to look good in other people's eyes, and that becomes an obsession almost, and it creates a lot of anxiety. But it also it is necessary for moral thinking, or higher levels of moral thinking, because if we can't stand outside ourselves and realize that other people view things differently, we can't really have a true morality. Dogs and animals are really nice and loving, but they don't have that type of morality like humans have. A dog never shares his food with anyone. Of course, human beings, with the advent of abstract thinking, which this is perspectival thinking, taking other people's perspectives, is also comes with the negative sides of it, because we can do really real much more harm too. So it's a double-edged sword in a way, because we have these mental faculties. We both can become much more good, have more morality, but we can also do more harm. Anyway, becoming younger again, even though we have evolved, even though we have developed, however you want to think about it, but I would definitely call it development in terms of thinking and complex thinking. When that also makes us less free in many ways, because we worry about what other people think and a lot of other things too. So with the advent then of spiritual practice and awakening, kensho, satori, enlightenment, did I say that? Moksha, the peace that passeth understanding, all those names, or just, it's on a continuum, so it's not necessarily, that you have had to had a brilliant breakthrough awakening and now you're enlightened. It's more the case that, when we do practice on disidentifying from the egoic mind that, is a blessing and a curse, I guess you could say. The thinking mind, that is our abstract thinking, all these things, and the thoughts and feelings that it creates, which are good in many ways and bad in some ways. But what we do in meditation and through a lot of spiritual practices is seeing beyond that, seeing that we are one with the world, seeing that those thoughts and emotions are just things passing by. It's not really who we are. We are, whatever that is. But yeah, it's for you to find out, I guess. But what the traditions usually say that is that our real self is no self, like they say in Zen Buddhism, or that our self is that we have a small self, the egoic mind, and then there's this big self, the universal mind, let's say, and the spiritual process tends to go from the small self to the big self, or from the identification with a small self to not identifying with it. And with that comes a greater flexibility in being, greater freedom, and we become more like little children, hence aging backwards. I guess that's a convoluted way of making that point, and maybe I don't agree, but I would also say that to some extent, even in terms of actual, maybe we only should call it health. So there are health benefits to in terms of psychological well-being. The researcher and I don't know, he goes by many names, but Jeffrey Martin, he wrote a book where he summarized a lot of the golden standard practices and how to attain enlightenment, looking at all the traditions, which I find is a really good overview, and hasn't really been done before in that way. And what he called the book was Fundamental Well-Being. That's my point. So well-being, psychological well-being, people who go through spiritual awakenings tend to just feel better, feel good, feeling and getting the answer to Einstein's question, is the world a good place? I don't remember what he said actually, but something in the effect of that. Is this world a good place? Is the world nice? I don't know I don't think it was that, but is the world good? Or yeah. And yeah, they get a yes to that in general, or maybe like a neither yes nor no, but definitely not a no to that. There's an increased sense of well-being, or there's an increased well-being through going through spiritual practices and spiritual awakenings. And yeah, in general, there's of course other things coming up too, like dark night of the soul, which is not something that people enjoy in general, but on the whole, definitely people. And I mean, it's yeah, there's haven't been that many studies done with. Jeffrey Martin, sticks out as one of those who has done some studies and did psychological tests of people going through those, awakenings. And I would say in general, especially for people who don't have any, real psychological problems, I guess we all do to some extent, but I mean, like the real dysfunction. For them, probably psychotherapy would be the best go-to practice. But for people, who don't really need that, or yeah, who's just out to feel better, I think at least for some of them, doing spiritual practices can definitely be a way to that. For me, that was never the point of my spiritual practice. I never cared too much about feeling good or having this ultimate well-being. I just wanted to know what awakening is, and I just knew that in my heart that I wanted to I wanted to take it. I wanted to, I worked every day for it, and but I didn't care too much about my well-being. In the end, though, it tends to be that an after effect or a side effect epiphenomenon is this well-being, and that is, again, maybe not getting younger, but healthier, because your psychological well-being is it's sort of an unknown in some ways. Most health enthusiasts aren't really speaking about psychological well-being and how that affects us, but we know that it does. I mean, stress is yeah, it's not a great thing, and we have a lot of people who are on sick leave because of stress and psychological problems. And, I mean, that's it's an growing number of people. So yeah, what I also wanted to say just about getting younger through spirituality is that bringing out the deep sleep state into the waking state, which is a way of framing it according to Ramana Maharishi. He says that, yeah, we can bring that state out. We can bring the state that we are in deep dreamless sleep into the waking state, so this state. And in deep dreamless sleep, how are we then? Yeah, we are relaxed, we are at ease, and there's a relaxation in the whole body and in the face even. And we can see that around the eyes. My experience has been that going through awakenings, and I just had an insight too that it's healing and it's a relaxation in many ways. I mean, that's not you don't need what do you say, like a rocket scientist to tell you that, but there's both been my experience, and it has just hit me as a real insight, even though it's of course pretty obvious. But what happens is that when people go through that, they do tend to relax as well. So there's psychological well-being, which helps us relax, But then there's, if we think about how someone looks in deep dreamless sleep, and then we look at some of the greatest teachers like Ramana Maharishi that I mentioned, we can see that they are relaxed. They are relaxed almost like someone sleeping, but they are awake. So there's a paradox of sorts, maybe. I don't know if it's a paradox, but that is also, I mean, I'm thinking about, wrinkles around your eyes and things like that. I don't, doesn't, I don't know if it makes you look younger, but you definitely look more relaxed. You don't have that worry brow as much. It's on a continuum. It's not binary or on and off. But over time and through other practices, of course, maybe even, yeah, life, of course, life circumstances and things like that affects us too. But spirituality definitely does. It hits at the core of our very being, our existence, our true self. And realizing what that is entails a waking up, which has this epiphenomenon or yeah, the side effects, which are great, which is making us younger, seen through, again, Jesus quote about we become like little children. Life becomes easier and we relax. We relax in our bodies and in our minds and in our face even, which, yeah, I'm trying to make the point that it's getting us younger. I don't know how that, if that's more like maybe it's more like what do you call it? Yeah, I don't find a word for it. Anyway, we do become more relaxed, more in love with the world. We become more in love with ourselves, and yeah, that's just a great way of living life, even if we don't get any younger. And I would also say that the idea of getting younger or grasping for that basically also, like most graspings, like most wants, it doesn't necessarily fall away completely for sure, but it to some extent is lessened, and that is also more well-being for us, which is a great thing, to surrender to the fact that we are mortal beings and this life will end. Yeah, doesn't make us any younger, but it helps us embrace that fact. Spirituality, disidentifying from the ego, waking up, realizing our true self, all those things relaxes us and yeah, greases the mechanics of life basically. Okay,